So I think it'll be wonderful if we could hear from you as well, Meng, on what's been the impact. Of course, that in your case, your industry is one of those that have been impacted highly because it's very high touch, as Shashat was saying, and is also highly exposed to real estate. What adaptable HR has meant to you, both on the first phase of pandemic, which is more the here and now, how are you enable business continuity, and also interesting to hear from you, how do you see it forward as we go back to whatever that business as unusual is going to be our context. So it will be lovely to understand adaptable HR, both in the context of the here and now, and how are you supporting the business and employees, and also as you look forward as well.
Well, maybe to put it in a nutshell, I think when we talk about resilience, and a lot of people talk about employees having to be adaptable, I think being resilient is being able to be flexible and agile to get around the situation, not being stoic in front of an obstacle. So I think most HR have learned that during this period that there are many things that has changed. If you look at the advisories that come out, some of the advisories change from day to day, from week to week. The situation is so fluid that many of the HR programs actually have to adapt to helping the business. Because what is HR here for? HR is not here in a vacuum, right? We are here to support the business, to enable the business to function effectively in a very safe environment. And of course, for the staff, the morale of the staff is also equally critical. So you mentioned that we are in the heat of all the COVID situation. It happens it affects our business in different ways. In the shipyard, obviously we do have a lot of employees in the dormitories. When we had our first few cases, we were assessing whether we should close down the dormitories. I think by the time we hit about the second or third case, the CEO of the business have already decided together with HR that he will shut down two parts of the major business. So we took a proactive step because safety of the employees came first. And it was a very big decision because we had projects that were actually in the yard, but that had to be done. Then we started looking at all the other issues like the dorm. Our dorms are purpose-built dorms, not very much like the ones that you see, quite different from the ones you see in the reports. Our dorms are largely built like army dormitories and hostel. And so the situation evolved as we went along. And so I said it affects different parts of our business. Our B2C business are largely in the M1 part of the business. So we have to decide what to do with the front end customer service as well. So HR had to adapt to the situation day on day, depending on the advisories that come out, and then have to change. I thought the first part was really reacting. We were reacting because situations were unclear, things were fluid, and we had to continue to adapt to the advisories that came out, ensuring at the topmost, how do we keep the staff safe? Secondly, how do we keep the business going?
Yeah.
The second phase, if I may carry on, the second phase was really about how do we engage the staff, because they are then adapting to a new normal, which is work from home where they can. And how do we help them to clear out some of the issues that they may have at work? So we ran competitions where staff could submit issues that they were encountering as they were working from home, whether it's technology, whether it is inability to get access to documents, and then they will provide their own solutions as well, how they have overcome the issue. So this was also trying to help staff to see how they could be part of the solution more than just highlighting a problem. So that was phase two. So we ran programs around that. Also, because it's a new normal, people have not been used to working from home on a prolonged basis. We ran a lot of support items on helping people to understand how do they improve their ergonomics whilst working from home? How do they work more effectively from home? How did they deal with the issue? So we understand if you have issues in terms of you have kids at home and you have to run off to do something with the kids, and you have to miss a call, so be it. I mean, it is the new norm, right? And then of course then we went on to more positive stuff. So we shifted away from just the day-to-day, the operational, helping them to get to a minimal state of effectiveness, to how do we get into a new state of effectiveness and start thinking about new things that could be done, looking at solutions, looking at new business opportunities, looking at how we can transform the business slightly differently so we can come out stronger. So I mean, if I want to put it that way, there'll be about 3 phases, and probably will be a phase 4 as we exit from circuit breaker into phase 2 circuit breaker, and what it will change, because the CEO was already talking about the future of work is so different. We have to start thinking about how the people are going to work differently from now on.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thanks so much for giving us that journey from safety to engagement to now kind of pivoting and really looking at those opportunities and engaging your employees on doing so. So as you were saying in a joking way, but I think truly, how COVID-19 is the number one reason why transformation and digital and future of work is accelerating. What are some of the trends that you are really looking at to bring into this phase 3 and phase 4 to kind of being more closer to collaborating with business outcomes, and at the same time more closer to bringing your employees as part of that journey? So what are some of the things that you're experimenting with or you're playing with in this phase 3 and phase 4?
Well, I think first of all, it must be business driven, right? So, and I think from the COVID-19, you can see that there's a growth of different types of business that is coming forth. I think there's a big need for more data center, because a lot of explosion of people working from home using technology. So I think the services that we are providing for data center, and so that there's a bit of a push in terms of that new business. I'll talk about the business first, and I'll talk about HR impact. The second one is in the telecoms. So TMT is very important, right? Telecoms, media, as well as the technology. The M1 supplies home broadband as well as telephony service. And I think we are aware that during this period, there are more sensitivity if you have a drop in your broadband or your Wi-Fi. And I think M1 is working very hard to maintain that high level of efficiency there. So that's why we have to keep some of our M1 staff who are part of the essential firm actually working. The third part is actually our logistics business, because we were also identified as an essential firm under the logistics to do stockpiling as well as provision of some of the medicine to the staff who medicine to patients who are actually part of the medical group in Singapore. So they call in a doctor, we supply the medicine to the home. So there are other businesses are growing, but these 3 you can see that actually affected by the COVID quite a fair bit. So I think it's a question of how do we able to put the right resources into the right business and support the business to continue the growth in the business, and putting the people there and getting our people being there, working in a safe and secure environment.
So from when you look ahead now, probably looking at phase 4, and you were also sharing how you and your CEO are thinking on what is this future of work going to look like. What are some of the things that are, and of course you may not have a concrete answer as yet because that's still a journey. What are some of the things that you visualize in that future of work? How does it look like from your point of view?
I think COVID-19 has made work from home a norm, which means telecommuting becomes a part of, or work from flexible location becomes part. But how do you transition from a more traditional goal-centered type firm into a more telecommuting firm? I think that's one of the changes in the work that you will see. I think the focus on more with technology help, we can actually put the goals and we can actually measure the outcomes and KPIs much more clearly, and people can be focused more on delivering outcomes rather than managing the process. So that's one change in terms of the work and how we would see measurement of work that is happening. There's a greater pressure about analytics and how analytics can not only navigate our way forward, but I think it's also a question of how can it actually aid and guide our decision making. So we can actually, if you look at audit, for once they are using a lot of automated tools to do auditing and doing remote auditing, versus in the past where you actually have to be at the site, look at the files, open up the files. And we try to build in more automated control system within and do more continuous monitoring than to do the audit outcomes. So there's a few changes that happen. It was already happening, but it has now been accelerated because of the COVID-19. Yeah, in fact, I was just having a conversation with my head of shared service, which I think Shashwat know very well, that maybe we should build into the workday more automated checks so that we do not need a lot of people to go through the system and do more robotic checks on the system itself and highlight and flag any abnormal, unusual transaction that happens on our system.
Yeah.
So you spoke about the focus on the outcomes and not really on the process, the analytics layer, and also the automation and robotics part. How are you visualizing as well transitioning your HR team's capabilities and your HR team's mindset and focus to be able to operate in that phase 4 in this new future of work? What are some of the things that you're thinking to structure your transition as well as an HR team, and how are you supporting the business in that new phase?
I think there's one more thing that I just want to jump in is that I think the push towards more consumer grade technology that can be used for the human interface will become even more important. I think we are so used to in our own lifestyle, personal life, different kind of technology that has been working for us. Netflix, the iTunes, the all the banking apps that has been so useful. So I think a lot of the commercial apps has not caught up as well. And I think we need to continue to accelerate that pace and get consumer grade human interface technology in place so that our staff who works on it will feel the same. Like there's no different from the other apps that they are used to in their day-to-day life. I think there'll be a greater pressure on that. Currently, most companies spend a lot of money on the outward-facing apps, but the internal apps are not as well focused on. Well, they introduce technology, but the technology is not introduced in a consumer grade way or does not look at the experience of the person using the app. So I think there'll be a more increase in that focus, right, Shafswat?
Yeah, that's already happening. I think that patience will go away because what compliance and IT was saying that's sacrosanct and it cannot be done. I think that has got questioned and people have accepted. So now once the moment you actually take that barrier off because of past corporate policy reasons, it's okay to live with something suboptimal. I think it suddenly accelerates, bringing into your point, the need for consumer grade things. And especially if you're working in different environment, you cannot manage the challenge because system is complex and slow, but networks are big in corporate offices and it will still work. It may not happen in all places and so on.
And I think the internal apps that will move closer to the mobile first app, I think more and more you will see that the apps moving towards mobile first, where people are able to work off their mobile system on most of the stuff, including looking at analytics. Because in the old days, analytics, you need a complex system at the back to churn out. But the question is, how can we deliver it in the micro size such that people can actually use it on the go? Similarly, the move towards mobile first means that from a HR perspective, learning can then move into microsite as well and micro learning, because then you can do your 6 minutes learning as you go around on your mobile phone.
Thank you. Thanks for adding that. Thank you. So in terms of your the journey of adapting your own HR mindset, skills, maybe outcome driven. How are you looking at that transformation towards phase 4 as a capability building for your own team on supporting the business and employees at the same time?
I think the good thing was the HR team went on the transformation journey under the leadership of the previous head of HR. I think the team already started that transformation where they consolidate many of the HR system into one. We accelerated the pace when I joined, and then together with Alight, I think we have actually moved many of the technologies over into the rest of the world. I think it's still in progress of being introduced, and I think because of this, they have actually accelerated their own ability to adapt to the ever-changing environment. And COVID just helped to prove that they have learned some new skills and built some new muscles, and being able to actually move quite quickly with times. I mean, we switched many of our programs from face-to-face, like training, to webinars, for example, almost overnight. We shifted the meetings and the exercise routine that we organize for people into online ones. So many things were shifted online almost overnight, and it was at the start of the circuit breaker, which is about now 6 to 8 weeks ago, that we started making all those changes. So they have actually built new muscles, I think, that in the time frame. And we'll continue to build the new muscles as we introduce new stuff, more fun stuff with analytics and with more technology to help them along the way.
Very nice. Wonderful. Srishant, any additional questions you'd like to add?
So, in fact, here I will like to add, and this is unique. Maybe I will, Meng Hin, if you pardon me, I will put Keppel in the more traditional, originally in the more traditional bucket of organizations. And when the whole transformation was happening and COVID hit the team, just to imagine, the most complex part of any digital transformation is testing, and the complexity of that happened virtually across 37 countries. So if you actually would have asked someone, even across the team, both sides, that this was possible 6 months back, everyone would have said, no, it's a crazy idea. And it happened, and the timelines got met, it got delivered, and that was just unbelievable. And the launch with Meng Hin did was literally, and this actually talks to the past, for the first time, a global HR team was meeting virtually. Because other than that, they have always flown in and met, and that's how the meetings. So that's the quantum of change which happened over 4-5 months. And I think, to be fair, because HR has got to use new muscles, so they have actually built that capability.
Well, I would say that actually it happened not just in HR. The organization was changing. There was already a process of trying to digitally enable the entire organization. So I think besides changing the HR system, I think the ERP system was also changed. I think we look back and say, had we not done this change 2 years ago, would we have been more crippled by this work from home? And the answer was probably so. But because we did make the change 2 years ago, it has helped the organization continue to operate almost seamlessly. Like we never stopped. We never stopped going to the office. It's like we work never stopped, right? And I think that was an acknowledgement from quite a few parties as well. Technology also enabled the management team to meet weekly to talk about the progress forward and the activities of what needs to be done. So the foundation that was built 2 years ago was very critical for today, well tested. And I think if you just as a joke, many times we do BCP plan. We talk about offsite, talk about whether it's hot site, cold site, whether it's a warm site. We do test desktop testing, but we never test the entire organization. This is the first time that we were able to really test our BCP system and know that actually it works.
So I'm interested to understand how do you keep that optimism as an organization. In difficult times, you've proven that you've done things that you yourself could not have imagined that was possible to be done. And I think a lot of it is credit to that optimism that you've been able to bring across all layers of the organization, that we can do this and it's positive, it's possible. So what is some of the things that you think you have done as an organization to really spread that optimism, that constructive feeling, that togetherness that is making it happen for Keppel as an organization?
Well, I want to say that it's the core value of Keppel, because one of the value is can-do spirit. And I think we never look at an obstacle as something that we cannot overcome or surmount. I think with the can-do spirit, we look at the obstacle as an opportunity that we can actually transform and do better. Something that I think the early leaders of Keppel actually built into the system, and that has actually resonated with everyone. And we continue to show that can-do system. So I think at the end, even as this COVID is happening, we don't just look at our own staff. I think very early in the stage, the management also look at how we can help the rest of the community, because it is the community that if we can help them and we are part of the community, we contribute back to the community. So the management donated part of their salary. We didn't do a pay cut, but they did donate part of the salary. Some of the staff continue to donate together with us, and we use the money in different aspects to help with the Courage Fund for the people in healthcare. We also help with the low-income families, so we distributed care packs to the low-income families. We also look at our own staff, and especially the foreign workers, and how we can best help them as well. And I think another group of people that we helped that were the contract workers that work with us, the cleaners, the security. They are not a part of our staff, but because they are the ones that take the full brunt and the first brunt of all the impact of the COVID-19, we wanted to say thank you to them. So we provided assistance and some care packages to these frontline workers who are not our staff as well. And then we look at it, and the management said, oh, our small medium enterprise also need cash flow. If they are ever going to support us and continue to keep their workers, they need the cash flow. So we told them if they were to put into the e-invoice system, we were able to pay them, and our promise was once everything is approved, we'll pay them within 7 days, regardless of what we put in the contract. We will expedite payment to them so that we can give them the cash flow lifeline, and with that, they can actually continue to keep their workers as well.
So it's a very, very multi-pronged response, Meng, that you're sharing with us. And when we started the conversation, you jokingly were, when Shashwat said you must be very busy, and you said this is an understatement. It's probably been, maybe one of the busiest times in your career.
I think it's quite fulfilling when you see that you're adding value to the whole business, and you can see that people are posting on the Yammer and saying that they are so excited to get a care package from HR, for example. I think somebody recently posted about the fact that HR sent them, I don't know how to explain this, but in the hot weather, I think if you look at Chinese medicine, they're talking about the cooling and the heaty effects, right? So some of the staff were working on site, and HR sent them some cooling drinks so that to keep them healthy and not fall sick. So I mean, small things like this, you actually feel the acknowledgement that staff actually recognize the effort that we put in. Obviously, we have to keep the advisories going. We also have internal advisories to the staff to tell them how to keep safe, and also to update them on the latest government advisory, and also to allow them to be able to, now with the phase 1 of circuit breaker, automate the system such that they can apply if they should need to go back. There's a system internally for them to do so.
Shashwat, any other questions? I'm going to actually ask both of you a final question. I'd love to get your inputs on both for this particular question. But anything else, Shashwat, you want to cover before we do that?
Nothing from my side. Already quite detailed inputs from Meng Hin. And I have seen it happen in action as we have been working closely with the Keppel group and large group under Meng Hin. Most of the HR stakeholders we work with. So we are seeing some of this happening.
Great. So I want to close with one question to both of you on what will be the word of advice that you will have for CHROs listening to this briefing. And maybe you can structure this as a one thing to start, one thing to stop as you get ready to that fourth phase. I'm more interested on this future of work phase, that the possibility or the opportunity that the future is bringing to all of us as HR. What will be one thing to start, one thing to stop that you want to leave our listeners today with?
Let Shaswat go first.
So in fact, Meng, I will go back and copy your comment where you said being agile is nothing, it's being flexible. And if you go back to both Hindu philosophy and the Buddhist philosophy, there is a saying say that a stiff and dead tree will break in a storm. If you are a tree with leaves and you are flexible, you will survive. I think that humbleness and ability to kind of solve problems and willingness to learn is most critical, and then that's where HR will collaborate and work together. So to my take, that's the big thing. While we talk agile and fancy words, that was a great insight, Meng. So that's my nothing new. I'm just using what you said, but that's a big one.
I have three words. Just
Okay.
3 words. What to stop is to stop focusing on policies. I think the business always look at HR as one that tells them whether policy allow or do not allow things to be done. I mean, if I want to put it in a more light-hearted manner, typically if you go to the back office of any department or of any company, and you go to IT usually solves the problem by telling you to switch off the system and switch it on again. Probably it works after that, right? You go to finance, what do they tell you? They tell you the budget doesn't allow you to do it. You go to HR, they tell you the policy says no, or I have no policy, so we can't do this. But this is new. Is a new era. We need to be flexible. I think the other 2 words I want to put in is focus on value adding. I think if we can find solutions, so solutions and value add will be the other 2 words I'll add in. I think if HR needs to be more flexible to look for solutions to help the business to be better, solutions to help the business to overcome this situation. And I think sometimes solution to handle the difficult things as well, because some business will go through difficult times and they may need to restructure. They may need to retrain. They may need to move people around. And sometimes after all that, there are still some people that we need to let go. How do we find workable solutions to help the business to be leaner, fitter, and more able to handle the new business going forward? And lastly, of course, with all that, then we add value to the business. And with the value that we add, HR continue to maintain an important role in business. So business first, HR second mindset.
Wonderful. I can't think of a better way to close this conversation. Meng Hin, thank you so much for taking time to being with us. It was very inspirational personally for me, and I think everyone who's going to listen to this conversation will gain tremendous value. And thanks, Shashwat, for anchoring it with the research study findings. I think it was a fantastic conversation. So thank you so much, both of you.
Thank you for inviting me.
Thanks, sister. Thanks, Meng Hin, for your time.